Whilst I believe one of the more underrated aspects of the transfer window is a club's ability to hold on to their best players. So when that window closes, if you've managed to retain your best players and fend off interest from elsewhere, that's a success. However, it's easy to do if no club actually bids for the star man. And I think that's how I've always seen Newcastle United with Alexander Isak, because they've had this stance: he's not for sale, he's not going anywhere this summer. But it's easy to do that, and it's easy to say that when nobody's actually bid for him. Arguably, it's even easier for Newcastle because Isak's worth well over 100 million. There's hardly any clubs that can actually afford to bid for him. 3, 4, 5 clubs maximum maybe that could afford that transfer fee. This isn't a player worth £8 million and there's tens of clubs that can afford him and they're looking at him. It's just impossible to fend that interest off. This is one of the best players in the world worth over 100 million. So unless one of those top clubs come in for him, you're keeping Isak. But the problem is, one of those top clubs have come in for him in Liverpool. Make no mistake about it, Newcastle United are about to be tested this week. They're knocking on the door. They've sent a smoke signal to Alexander Isak. We want you, we're here for you. When the reports came out in the media yesterday, there was almost an indirect threat from Liverpool towards Newcastle, which is, you sell us Isak or we're going to go sign Hugo Ekitike. And that's the other way Newcastle are going to be tested this week. Can you get that deal over the line? Because Frankfurt have reportedly rejected that €75 million bid, but can you get it done? Because right now, the way I see it, there's 4 potential scenarios for Newcastle. So come the end of the transfer window, either 1, they've kept Isak and they didn't sign Ekitike, success. 2, they've kept Isak and signed Ekitike, incredible, ideal scenario, fantastic, huge success. Number 3, they've sold Isak for a British record transfer fee to Liverpool, but replaced him with Hugo Ekitike. Now, whilst that's not ideal, I would still consider that to be a success. But then you've got scenario number 4, which is the failure in my eyes. You've sold Isak to Liverpool, but didn't replace him with Ekitike. Now, I've got no doubts if that happened, they would still sign a top striker to replace Isak. They'd spend big money on someone. I'm just going to throw this name out there as a hypothetical. But they could go spend 35, 40 million on Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa, top striker. But it's not their number 1 transfer target to replace Isak. That's why I would consider it a failure. I'm looking forward to discussing it with you. But if you're new to the Tartan YouTube channel, please do subscribe. We're going to be taking a look at Isak. We're going to be taking a look at Luis Diaz potentially leaving Liverpool. And Mbeumo finally might be joining Man United, the replacement for Mbeumo at the G-Tech Community Stadium, and just why Liverpool are about to get even more richer than they are today. Also, whilst you're here, please do drop a like on the video as well by clicking the thumbs up button. Both things are free, takes 2 seconds, helps out the video, helps out my small channel, makes me happy. Massive thank you for all the support recently. I'm motivated to create content, and I'm enjoying it as well. Even though there's been a few Tottenham fans on here lately that perhaps don't like me, mainly because I support West Ham. But we're living with it. We're dealing with it. Right, Isak to Liverpool. So it broke yesterday. Reliable sources. It was quite an interesting report, weren't it? Because it wasn't that Liverpool had bid. It wasn't even saying that Liverpool were going to bid. Liverpool are going to make an inquiry with Newcastle and let them know that they are prepared to spend in the region of 120 million on Isak. And if Newcastle's stance is, he's not for sale, go away, they're going to go away. However, if they get encouragement from the North East club, then they're going to negotiate with them and try and sign Isak. But the bit within all these articles and reports at the bottom were Liverpool still retain an interest in Hugo Ekitike. It felt like an indirect threat. It felt like a power play from Liverpool. It might as well have just said, sell us Isak or we're going to go sign Ekitike. Now, I'm unconvinced that's what they would do. I'm unconvinced to go sign Ekitike because Isak's been a long-term target for Liverpool. And I've always felt, up until now, I'm starting to change my mind now, but up until right now, I've always felt Isak will end up at Liverpool next summer. But I also felt that Bellingham would end up at Liverpool, and that didn't turn out to be the case, did it? So that's how good my predictions are. But I've always had a feeling that next summer is the summer Isak leaves and goes to Anfield. And if Liverpool are seriously wanting to sign him, which they are, what you don't do is go sign his replacement, right? Because if you don't get him this summer and Newcastle sign Ekitike, it's perhaps not the end of the world. Because next summer you can go in for him again. But if you go sign Ekitike, the chances of Newcastle selling Isak next summer are much less, because the guy they'd earmarked to replace him is gone. He's at Anfield. So I don't really believe that aspect of the report. But I do believe Liverpool are in for him. And this is the first time I've thought maybe Isak does just go. Because 120 million won't be Liverpool's final price. It never is. No club bids. Some do. Most clubs don't bid their final offer as their first offer. Just like most clubs don't sell the player on their first offer. So hypothetically, Club A goes to Club B and says, oh, we bid 30 million. Club B doesn't go, oh, that's a good price, thank you. Except they go, you're going to pay that, you're going to pay 35. Let's negotiate. Usually, Club A think, oh, we'll pay 35 for him. Let's bid 30. No one bids their maximum bid in their first bid. Usually. Unfortunately, my team, West Ham, did in January and got told to do one, and we end up not signing the player. But that's a different conversation, and a different person doing the negotiations. Liverpool, with Hughes, top club. Newcastle, top club. I can see this deal happening. My prediction right now is Newcastle sign Ekitike and Liverpool sign Isak for 130 million, I think. I think it'll be a bit more than 120. That's my prediction. That's my feeling right now. And it would be a top signing for Liverpool. He's a world-class striker. There's not many in the world. There's not many of them. Hence why they're world-class. But imagine Salah, Isak, and I'm a big fan of Gakpo, and I think Luis Diaz might eventually leave. So Gakpo over on the left. Ugh, that tag will be stunning. And then behind them, they've got Gavin Burke, McAllister, and Wirtz. Kirk Kesman. Oh, just leave it out, will you? It's like Arne Slot's playing FIFA or Football Manager at the minute with this little dream team he's building. But I wouldn't see Newcastle selling Isak as a failure, because it's for a British record transfer fee. They've earmarked Ekitike as his replacement. I think ideally it's a long-term one, and they'd like to have both of them next season, so that when they do sell Isak, if they sell Isak next summer, the replacement's there. He's been at Newcastle for a year. He's got used to Eddie Howe, vice versa. Ekitike is very similar in terms of a profile to Isak. He's not as good yet. He may be. That's what Newcastle are hoping. But in terms of the player himself, very, very similar. Thrived at Frankfurt playing counter-attacking football, scoring goals in counter-attacking football. The second highest player in the Bundesliga to do it, behind Omar Marmoush, who's obviously now at Manchester City. It makes sense as a replacement for Isak. But also, PSR-wise, significant profit for Newcastle. And what it would do is mean that Newcastle could go spend serious money this summer. You'd replace him, let's say they get Ekitike in for 80 million, sell Isak for 130, 50 million net in terms of cash, but actually PSR is better than that 50 million, because the money you're getting for Isak and how long he's been there for already, it would give Newcastle an incredible amount of wealth and power for the remainder of the transfer window. And that's why I am confident that even if they sold Isak, hopefully they don't. I'd like him to stay at Newcastle personally, but if he does go, I am confident no matter what happens, Newcastle will be in a better place at the end of the window than they are now. I think their transfer business between now and then will be good. It just may mean that Isak leaves. One to keep your eye on. You're not going to be able to ignore it. Anyway, it sounds like Man United have finally agreed a deal with Brentford for Brian Mbeumo, the player they've been stocking all summer. Even I'm getting frustrated, right? I think it's obvious. A couple of people have commented they can tell I don't like Man U. It's no secret. Someone said, I can't remember what it said, like, I think you've got like a secret hatred for Man U. Secret? It's no secret. I don't like Man U. I'll willingly tell you. I do not like Man United. If I had to rank the clubs 1 to 20 in the Premier League from likeness, how much I like them, they're 20th, right? They're down there with Tottenham and Arsenal and Chelsea, right? They're the bottom four for me in the Premier League. But I don't like them. However, even I have got frustrated with how long it's taking Man U to get this deal. I'm almost frustrated for Man U fans. Like, bloody hell. I honestly, I'd have hair like Arne Slot if I was a Man U fan right now watching this Mbeumo thing. Be a great signing for them. I think it's one of those that just feels like it would work. It's not going to be a cheap move, 62.5 million, similar to what they paid for Cunha. Expensive, but inevitable to work, I think. Hit them two in the number 10s next season. Fernandes in midfield. That's a really good part of the team. I can't say spine because they're still missing the striker. They're still missing the goalkeeper. There's still a lot of work to do at Old Trafford. But Mbeumo looks like he's finally going to Man U. And his replacement is Omari Hutchinson. Brentford have activated a £35 million release clause. The Nottingham Forest owner is going to be suing. This is just a joke. He's not going to be suing Brentford for... Anyway, top signing for Brentford. I like Omari Hutchinson. Was unlucky with Ipswich last season. Was picked up injuries as well. But in the Championship was one of the best players. Had a really good tournament with England on the left-hand side, which was interesting because I've always seen him as such a right-hand side heavy type player. But England under Carsley played him on the left. I thought he looked really good going to the byline and playing more cutbacks and crosses. But he was excellent at it. However, at Brentford, he'll be to replace Mbeumo and go on to the right. They've still got Wissa despite his contract situation. And I think Shada was fantastic at the end of the season as well. So Brentford's attack's looking good despite Mbeumo leaving. Is he as good as Brian Mbeumo? No, I don't think he is. But I think Hutchinson will improve, can improve, and it's a good club to do so. And I appreciate Thomas Frank's gone, but most of the coaching team are still in place to work under Keith Andrews as well. So the player development side of things should still be something that's considered to be reliable and successful at Brentford, despite Thomas Frank going, a couple of the coaches going, and their captain going as well. But they have signed Jordan Henderson. Boo! No story. No Sunderland return for him. Off to Brentford. I'm unsure, actually. I thought he was suited to Sunderland. Just that bit of experience with all the younger signings they're making. At Brentford, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a good signing to me. He's obviously free and he's still got that experience and stuff. But I never felt Brentford were in need of having that leadership. And I appreciate Norgaard's gone, but I don't know. Brentford have a really good track record when it comes to making signings. So clearly they know what they're doing. But when I seen him going to Brentford, it was one of them I thought, unconvinced by this one. It's got a little bit of the Ben Mee about it. But then saying that, Mee was all right for Brentford for a season or so. It's just picked up a lot of injuries, didn't he? But anyway, Liverpool. So we have a little bit of money, haven't they? Sold Quansah to Leverkusen. Harvey Elliott is on his way out the door. They've rejected bids for Luis Diaz, who reportedly is insistent he wants to leave, which is a bit surprising because I think he's got a big role at Anfield and was a big part of their success last season. And when you see what Liverpool are doing in the transfer market, you think that's the club you want to be at. But it sounds like he's desperate to go to Bayern Munich. It's been no secret Bayern Munich want a new left winger. They've been linked to loads of different players, but Diaz is the one that they want. So Liverpool are trying to keep a hold of him, but Diaz is trying to go to Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich are trying to sign him. This feels inevitable. I feel like this is one that will happen. But not only that, because of Elliott and Quansah, PSR-wise, it's just pure profit. That's good for Liverpool. Luis Diaz going as well. They're going to have plenty of money to spend. That's why when you look at the Isak thing, it feels affordable, which is crazy. 120, 130 million. You think, oh yeah, Liverpool can afford that, despite already spending what they've spent in the transfer window. Diaz leaving, they'd have to replace him. They would have to replace him. They've still got Gakpo, and obviously what sadly happened to Jota, but as I've mentioned before, there still needs to be a conversation held at that club, which is he needs replaced. You can pay respects and remember Jota, and I think Liverpool have handled it perfectly well. Perfectly well. They're doing everything right as a football club to honour Jota. But those that have conversations regarding the playing staff, whether it be Edwards, Hughes, Slot, the conversation will be, we do need to replace him, especially if Darwin Nunez leaves as well to Saudi or Qatar. More money coming in. So Isak would go in there to replace Nunez, essentially. If Diaz goes, he needs replaced too. So I think while Isak to Liverpool may happen, I don't think they're finished yet. I think there's another player to go. And I've seen them linked to Marcus Rashford today, which feels maybe like a bit of a wild card. I'm not against it. I actually think it might work, Rashford going to Liverpool in the way that Liverpool play. I think it might suit him. He definitely needs to get away from Old Trafford. Pre-season started now. He needs out of there. Sancho looks like he's on his way out of there. It's costing Man U. Man U have reportedly got to pay Sancho $4.5 million to leave. Just what a terrible transfer that's been. Garnacho still waiting to find a new club as well. The footage of him yesterday turned up to training after Amarim left, so he's not training with the first team, but he's doing a form of training at Carrington. He badly needs to get out of Man United. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll go somewhere. Just the amount of clubs that he's been linked to has shrunk a little bit. I have a prediction. I'm not going to put in the title or thumbnail because it's just a wild prediction. I think Garnacho might end up at Aston Villa. I don't know why. Just got a feeling that that's maybe where he'll end up. I think Ramsey might leave Villa and Garnacho will go to Villa. Because every week that goes by, Garnacho just gets a little bit cheaper, doesn't he? You know, it was 55. That price has now dropped to 50. Well, you wait a couple of weeks, he's probably down at the 40 million mark because Man U can't afford to keep him for next season. They need to get him out. Amarim don't want him there. He has to go. So the longer clubs wait, the cheaper he's going to get. Be an interesting one. Anyway, that's it for me. Hopefully you've dropped a like on it by clicking the thumbs up button. Isak to Liverpool. Would be sad for Newcastle, but to sign Ekitike and then start bringing in a top centre-back in James Trafford, I think they'll get over it quickly enough. But for Liverpool, what a team they're assembling.